And the Academy Award for Best Picture.
La La Land.
Want to get away? Now you can.
You are now free to move about the country.
Oh, stop it.
I'm stopping it. That was good.
Hey. That was so good.
What gave you that idea, Ben?
Oh, nothing. All right. Welcome to the very special Spark of Madness 2018 Best Picture nominees podcast.
I can't wait.
I'm pretty excited about this.
Can't wait.
I'm Matt. That's Ben. That's Aaron at the controls.
With great
and we are
headphones.
joined by our favorite movie fan on the West Coast, Colin Orr.
Whoa,
Hey.
it's quite an introduction. Thank you.
With the
Yeah,
camera
he's just
on
waking
this
up.
time.
You're only our favorite on the West Coast. You're like number 6 or 7 in the country.
Oh, nice,
but,
nice.
yeah,
I knew it.
so,
I knew
yeah.
it. Dang.
We thought we'd bring you back. So Colin was on our Bright podcast, the Will Smith movie released to Netflix. So it only felt right to let him come back to talk about good movies. And so here's like 9 good movies all at once to talk about.
Okay.
Well, that's great. Just silent.
Can't wait.
So before we get into talking about each movie, so we're gonna talk for 9 minutes exactly, 9 minutes for all 9 movies, and then at the very end we're gonna give our picks for our favorite, how we might have ranked the 9 best pictures. But where I thought we would start is what are our overall kind of observations for the 9 movies this year? I've got a couple ideas, but what kind of stands out for you guys?
I can go first here, since I'm the most egotistical of all of you. I think this is a pretty subpar, for me, Oscar Best Picture category for me.
Once I agree.
And I hate to say that, but I actually, this is the first time I saw all the movies. But I think there's some good movies, but there wasn't anything that blew me away. In fact, the only movie that blew me away this year, and I've told you guys a ton of times, and I'll get it out now, is I think the best picture of the year for me that's not even nominated was Blade Runner 2049. I think that was the best picture of the year, and it was a complete movie to me.
It had the whole package.
It had a full package, and it was thought provoking. It was good acting. It was everything. It was beautiful, and it was done by the same guy who did Arrival, which I think should have been a best picture worthy.
It was,
but I think they should have won.
Oh, okay.
To me, it was that last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think science fiction, for the most part, other than Shape of Water, has a hard time winning and being nominated for these.
That's because it's so deep and scientific.
Well, it's the same thing, that puppeteers don't get nominated for actors, but they're doing such amazing performance, and actually, puppeteering is one of the first forms of acting.
So your big disappointment is that Blade Runner got snubbed.
Absolutely.
I think I 100% agree. Actually, that's
I think it should have won.
If we're talking about snubs, well, Colin, what if specifically when it comes to like what movies aren't on this Best Pictures list? What kind of sticks out for you? Are there any that you wish were on the list, or ones that were close for you?
Well, one that was given to me by Red Letter Media was A Ghost Story. I would have not seen that film unless Mike talked about it.
Ghost
and
Story.
When a Ghost Story was such a artsy, phenomenal movie that I watched, and I agree with you about Blade Runner. I also would kind of throw in It.
Yes.
I that was just very nostalgic. It just brought me back to that era of time, and so,
Yeah.
I would like to see that on this list, but I'm very understanding of why it's not on there.
Yeah.
Also,
Because it didn't have a political message.
Yeah,
There
I
you
think I think that's a good distinction because we may go through, especially for our podcast or our video. It's not going to be a podcast that comes out later in the week where we pick our winners for every Oscar category. There's kind of the distinction between not only do what we think will win versus what should win, but also what is our favorite, like our personal favorite, like, and what the distinction is between something that is personal, we can acknowledge as personally more significant, like It maybe, that has that nostalgia feeling, versus
That's
some of the
3 It's.
others.
Well done.
there's also one more thing that I wish that could be in a category is for somebody that could get an Oscar for being a actor that could pick movies to be in the best picture, which I would give to Michael Stuhlbarg,
Yeah.
who was in 3 of the films
Okay,
that are on the
all
best
right.
picture.
I was going to save this, but keep going.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, I was blown away when I saw him in all 3 of the films. I was just like,
Me too.
you chameleon, man. You
He's
can
like
just
Will
get in
Smith.
there.
So Michael Stuhlbarg was in Shape of Water, Call Me by Your Name, and The Post. And last year he was in Arrival and Doctor Strange. Oh. So and that's also not mentioning a bunch of other things
Who
he
was
was
he in
in. He
Doctor
was in
Strange?
Fargo, I guess, too. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
he's in
so I also want to call out. There's a bunch of actors that so Stuhlbarg is the only one. I think he's like one of only 6 people ever to appear in 3 Best Picture nominees in the same year. Caleb Landry Jones, who was the brother in Get Out. He was also the billboard guy in 3 Billboards.
Oh,
He was the closest to getting 3 movies this year, but the Florida Project didn't get nominated, and that was on the bubble. So speaking of snubs, that would be one that I saw. It was pretty good. I
didn't
agree it
realize
was
that
not on it,
him.
but
I didn't realize that was him in Get Out.
yeah,
Boy,
I
he's,
have a
he's
question
a
for
good
you,
actor,
Matt.
man.
yeah.
I have a question for you.
Tom Hanks.
Go ahead.
For the Florida Project, are you still happy that it is being showcased in some way with Willem Dafoe being nominated?
And again,
I'm happy. I'm happy it's getting acknowledged. I don't know if I would have nominated Willem Dafoe.
Why
though,
wouldn't
but
you nominate?
you give him a bone. Yeah.
Get out, am I? Back the formula.
So I want to run down the list though, because there's actually a bunch of people in multiple movies this year. So Timothée Chalamet, who's the star of Call Me by Your Name, who's nominated for Best Actor. He was also in Lady Bird
Yes,
as
yes.
the
As
other
the
boyfriend.
douche.
Bradley Whitford was in Get Out and The Post. Lucas Hedges was in
But Bradley Whitford is also in your favorite movie,
which one?
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison. Okay, he's in a lot of my
He's
favorite
the bad guy
things.
in Billy Madison.
Lucas Hedges was in Lady Bird. He was the gay boyfriend, the boyfriend who turned out to be gay. Mm-hmm. And then he's also in 3 Billboards as the son. A lot of
Oh
these
God,
are
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Tracy Letts, he's the dad in Lady Bird. He's also in The Post. He's Meryl Streep's brother.
Oh yeah.
And then
I didn't realize that either.
there's a couple other people who were like almost like extras, but
And-
there's actually quite a few people this year who doubled up in significant roles.
Oh yeah.
Even what's her name? Sacha Rooney. That was Lady Bird. She was in Loving Vincent too, which is really awesome.
Oh, she was?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
awesome.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize that Winston Churchill was also in Call Me by Your Name.
What?
Winston Churchill. He was in the background walking in Italy at the time.
Oh.
Okay. He was so live in the 80s. But
Just a little bit. Any other?
itself.
I've got a cut. So I thought it was interesting. So in 2017, the best pictures were. So last year, the best pictures were La La Land, Moonlight, which won Best Picture, Arrival, Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, Fences, and Lion. And I was surprised that both this year and last year, there's a movie about homosexual awakening. There's one token sci-fi movie, which you just brought up.
Yes.
There's a kind of brutal death movie that's kind of colored with humor all the way throughout, which I thought.
Oh yeah, Lady Bird was
yeah.
very. Yeah.
There's a war. There's specifically a war film. There's a biopic, but there's also a biopic that's focuses in on a feminine character, a feminist character with Hidden Figures, and then I would argue The Post is kind of that way. There's a film about race that's also via a unique format that's not very conventional, and then there's ones about like parents and identity through your parents, so Lady Bird and Lion, which I thought was interesting. That there's sort of like a lot of similarities each movie.
Yeah. What about Phantom Thread?
Phantom Thread is the one. So I had an overall kind of observation for all of them, and I also had trouble with Phantom Thread for that.
Yeah.
So I felt like this year, across all the Best Picture nominees, was the year of like feeling trapped. Like the idea that, which you could argue is a common element for any sort of conflict, but specifically when it, like how they, so many of these movies visualize being in like tight spaces or like helpless situations where they can't do anything.
Way to go, Matt. That's awesome. I totally agree with you.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's why Blade Runner didn't win. But you know
Yeah,
what?
maybe because it didn't fit the formula.
No, it didn't.
that I'm coming up with
if
now.
you think about it, though, it does have that same formula when Ryan Gosling's character feels like insignificant.
Yeah. Well,
Even
and
though in this huge world, but he lives in his apartment.
so I thought with Phantom Thread, what's her Alma, the
Check your
the
batteries.
model, she's kind of trapped in this crappy relationship, but she also is like she's like an underappreciated mannequin, basically, where
And then
she's
she
like
takes
stuck.
control.
Right. And so the difference between each one is kind of whether they either stay trapped or how they combat that
Do
feeling.
they
and
get
break
out?
of it. Do they get out?
not?
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. Whoa.
That
The
does kind of blow my mind. I was not thinking that way. That's
Yeah.
a really good observation.
Well, and
Donovan.
maybe I'm just projecting based on the current day.
Matt
but
does project a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he puts his problems
I know.
onto mine, onto me, and I was like, "Come on, Matt,
I rear
you're
project.
projecting." as he's changing the reels.
All right. Speaking of reels, let's start. We're gonna go through all 9 movies.
Oh my
Oh boy.
We're gonna do it. We've got a timer even. So we're gonna stick to it, and I'm gonna cut us off and move on to the next one, so we can keep this podcast hopefully not
All
super
right.
long.
You got it.
And our first one is "Call Me by Your Name."
And go.
Go. 9 minutes. All right. Who wants to start?
Not me.
I can start.
Colin, go ahead. What was your thoughts on "Call Me by Your Name"?
It made me want to go to Italy. It had beautiful shots of Italy. One of the biggest things I wanted to bring up while watching the film, the advertisements and trailers made it seem like it was a gay movie. But while
I was
watching
hoping
it,
for gay stuff.
while I was watching
fornication.
I was like, there's something that isn't like making it a gay movie. And what was amazing was the father had his monologue at the very end, and
Yeah.
that's what made the movie for me. Just because it told me exactly what I was thinking, which was this isn't a movie about 2 gay lovers. It's about finding that great love. And even the father, like you can assume a lot of things.
Michael
but
Stuhlbarg,
he-
by the way. Yeah,
Yeah,
just to
which-
clarify.
And I think
he looks better
with
the
a beard.
star of all the movies.
I
looks sorry,
guess
go
I'm
ahead.
just a fanboy. I'm
Yeah.
a fanboy of him.
Sorry,
right
go
now.
ahead,
But,
go ahead.
But no, what I was saying is just like he was like, I didn't take the chance, and a lot of people would assume, oh, he found some other guy that he loved, but it could be a woman too, because he never makes it like that, and it was more of just, hey, you found this great love. So it was a okay film, but his monologue really made it for me. But that's what I want to say.
All right, so I agree with everything Colin said. I think it was a story about love. Italy is beautiful, and that was northern Italy because I was like, oh, it's snowing? Oh, it must be northern Italy, which they said at the beginning. But
Which they said out loud, but I
yeah,
won't.
that's true. But I was transfixed. on
I'm
it.
the Italian.
I think it was shot very well. I thought like Aaron would appreciate it because it was shot very much like a realistic lighting and not like over the top
I do enjoy
dramatic
that.
lighting. And
Although I have a soft spot for dramatic lighting, too.
me too. But it did create a mood. My only complaint about it is that it was a little too long. I was bored a lot of different places, but also this. Well, he sums it up at the end about true love. I felt there was more chemistry and more love in his fling with the girl than the gorgeous man of Armie Hammer in his Hammer. But no, he's a handsome man.
He's literally the Greek statue that they
David.
keep showing
Did
all the way
anybody else,
through.
like when they saw it, remember the sorry, what's that movie? The
Lone Ranger?
Lone Ranger. Did anybody else see the Lone Ranger and think, boy, this guy's going places? What happened to him?
Yeah, he had the Cliff Secord way of cinema. The guy from
He went to the-
Rocketeer.
yeah.
We thought he was going to go some.
He went to Dracula, and then that was it.
That was it. But my point is, before you rudely interrupted me, was that I think it was too awkward for me, and maybe that's how it is. It's like he's a teenager and awkward, but their relationship was too awkward to me.
Maybe it was
And
between like passionate love and innocent love, like innocent love with the girl and passionate
but there
love
wasn't
with
any
the man.
chemistry or true love to me. And I think that my biggest complaint about that was that I just didn't. It felt weird to me, and I was very uncomfortable. And it could have to me. It wasn't because they were gay. It was because it just didn't feel natural to me. It was very cringy, their interactions with each other.
I would agree that.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know that kind of love.
Yeah,
you know?
so I would agree for sure. My biggest con with the movie was that it's definitely a little bit meandering, like, and it's kind of set in this summer fling kind of setting anyway.
80s
So it just
Newtown.
kind of like has that lazy summer day kind of feel to the whole movie, which isn't great for a story, but it's good for this.
I think it's
setting.
great sometimes.
And I would agree with you that a lot of it is kind of awkward, but I think that plays into part of it's kind of coming of age, kind of sexual awakening movie where there's awkwardness is maybe part of it. So it kind of plays into that. But I agree that I feel like there's a lot here in terms of, again, the Greek statues that are like literally they're pulling up these mythic, perfect men statues that are like broken and crumbled out of the water as like it's the dad's job to do that and to study them, and like as how that relates back to the story of, and I think you said it perfectly, Colin, that the monologue, to me, the monologue is in Call Me by Your Name, not only is the best part of this movie, it's the best part of any movie on this list, in my opinion.
He should be nominated just for that monologue.
Yeah, I would agree, but he's not. The thing I'll add, though, about the monologue, not only is it delivered so well, but I feel like it recontextualizes the entire movie at both at the very end of the movie, and then they keep adding on to it and like kind of mind blow everything that you just saw a little bit in terms of, okay, this is a movie about this guy finding that he's gay and he experiments with it and he meets this guy and he like sees it through, but then you have that story, and maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, but I interpreted the monologue as his dad admitting that he is also gay, and that, you know, if you don't, to make yourself feel nothing is to not feel anything, and like he's just lived with this. But then even if not, right after that, we also find out that Armie Hammer is getting married to a woman in the United States, and it kind of adds all of this like generational differences between people older than Timothy Chalamet's character who don't feel comfortable to be who they really are ever. Like even though Armie Hammer comes to Italy and can do this and has projected this confidence about who he was the entire movie, we find out at the very end that like, no, these adults are just as broken as everybody else and just as scared, and it's like everybody's so miserable. And then the movie ends on just tears, but still, like from the monologue on, it feels so hopeful to me that his dad has and his parents showed such compassion about what he's going through and understanding that it was so.
It did, but man, I couldn't care less about a spoiled little rich kid who's nice.
That's
kid
the other thing. Yeah, the
in
privilege
Italy,
of it all.
who's
Yeah.
got
Well,
the
when you guys were
fucking
saying
life.
it was slow,
He's got it
what was
alive.
funny? Yeah, what was funny to me was there was one part where he's like, "We wasted so much time," and I was like, "Yeah, you're wasting my time. Let's move it along. Come on."
Yeah. Edit. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're wasting so much time during the summer where I don't need a job and don't need to go to
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
and I'm just like
It's definitely
hanging
not
out.
the best editing.
Yeah, that's fair. Any any other thought? I would say the "Call Me by Your Name" is kind of a vague title, and they work it into the movie. How did you guys feel like that?
I didn't like the.
Played out.
It had nothing to do with the movie to me.
So they don't say the title of the movie in the movie.
They do.
No, they
they
do.
do.
Oh, they
Very
do. Good.
They do. I
Deliberately,
think
yeah.
it was shoehorned in there. I think it was. It was beautifully shot. It was some really good filmmaking, but I just maybe it wasn't for me.
What did you think of Timothy Chalamet, the main character?
I think
'Cause he's up for best.
I think he's boring.
Yeah, I
What do
agree
you
with
think,
that.
Col-
He's,
what do you
he's
think,
a little
Colin?
too monotone, and I mean, in all his roles, he's just kind of an emo kid walking around with a book and being stubborn. And I mean, that's what he did in both films. And
He's
they're
got
like,
that.
"Oh, he's
yeah.
amazing," and I'm like, "All right."
I'm actually kind of. We can talk a little bit more in our next when we pick best actor, but
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of in agreement with you guys.
I'll go on a
that I
rant.
felt like I felt like the strength of the movie wasn't necessarily on
I think
performances
the
as
big
much
aspect
as
is that
writing
he's a
and
younger actor, and they kind of want to buff him up. So
agree.
Yeah.
bigger roles.
I can see
later
that.
on in life can
I
come
think he
down.
played an awkward. I think he played the notes right, but the character is boring. He's kind of a boring actor. It's like that's what it called for is boring.
I mean, this
I
was a
think Armie
perfect
Hammer
movie
was boring,
for
too.
him. All
right.
Yeah. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time is up.
Time's
Sorry.
up. I'm sorry.
We have a bell on our end. Okay, so Call Me by Your Name. Next up, Darkest.
I think 9 minutes is a good.
Yeah, it's a
time to
good
get
cutoff.
on there.
All right, Darkest Hour.
Go.
Go, Colin.
I thought Gary Oldman was amazing. He always brings it to the table.
Has there ever been a movie where he wasn't?
No, I really
Lost in
can't think
Space.
of it.
I love that movie.
He was good in that.
Yeah, he was really good in that.
We'll get into that when we do our picks, but he was amazing. Some of my favorite scenes were when they were in the ship, or kind of higher up. You're kind of like the bird's eye view of bombing and coming from the map, basically.
Yeah, I
You're kind
remember.
of like a.
Yep.
And
It
those
was
shots
cool.
were. I thought that really gave it that little something to the movie,
Yeah.
and also the speech writing scenes, just like the way that they made these epic speeches that actually do exist came to him either easy or like the way they shot it kind of seemed like it came easy to him, but then when it came up to like giving the speeches, he was very like editing himself and like really meticulous.
I
and-
like that.
Read that back to me.
and then when he yelled at the guy right before he went on air to the whole to everybody, and it was just like that was pretty powerful, and I like that. I like all those parts.
I agree with you. Gary Oldman's amazing. I think it's going to win for best makeup, which we'll talk later. But the makeup was amazing.
Do you realize that Oldman's not allowed to win anything, right?
Why not?
Oh,
He never
no.
wins anything.
That's what I'm saying. That's the way he's going to win. He's
Wait a
gonna win.
minute. G. Oldman, Goldman, Oscar.
Jewish conspiracy?
Gold, and a man. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Darkest
His
Hour.
name is Oscar. And his real name is
Darkest
Oscar.
Hour.
No, my favorite scene was when he was talking to the people in the subway. I think that was a really powerful scene. I thought it was a good movie, but it was very sensationalized. Like this is the opposite of Call Me by Your Name, Aaron, where it was really like beautiful. Everything was beautiful, shadow and lighting. Everything was just like
It was
dramatic and
idealized.
beautiful. It was, but that was the purpose. It was kind of being like a sensationalizing him a little bit. Who knows the real details of him? They really depict him to be really, really out. He had his quirks and things, but he was really loyal to his wife and really.
Yeah.
We don't. I don't know the history of.
So I'll just add
of
just on this
Churchill.
point is that they have obviously glossed over quite a bit and buffed out some of the more frustrating
Egregious.
details about Churchill and like some of the
Well-
things he did, and like particularly when it comes to like colonialism and racism. Like there's a lot of things about Churchill that are
Because
bad.
he talked to a black man at one point, you know.
Well, yeah, but like, well, no, I'm just saying they didn't include some of the bad details about Churchill in this movie, which is okay. That's for movies like this. I think it's okay to not be 100% accurate and to just sort of vaguely acknowledge some of his his or hers main issues.
What particular that was like the most egregious to you?
What do you mean?
Well,
Well, just like some of the things he's done by like in real life, some of the ways he's treated India, basically in real, like they didn't mention any of that in here.
India,
So,
like the country India.
yeah,
Okay.
like during this time, and so I think that's okay to not do that and just sort of acknowledge at a distance that he's not perfect. But the thing about it is, and so many biopics do this. The thing about it though is that's in sacrifice to a bigger motive to like deliver some message that this person did something great. And my problem with this movie as a whole was that the great thing that he did kind of came across as like, well, yeah, obviously, the whole movie was basically around the theme of like how hard it was to actually convince people that no, we should never compromise with
never
Hitler,
surrender.
right? We should never compromise with Hitler. And basically
Especially during the darkest hour.
Unless you're the
the
Swiss.
crux of that decision came during the subway scene where he talks to people, and this is after 2 hours of movie where it's like this back and forth about what should we do, and then the people are just like, no, don't negotiate. And like as an audience, it's like, yeah, obviously don't negotiate. And so it just came across to me that
I think
like
that didn't come across me that way. I think
Okay.
it came across me like the dire straight. He was dealing with a lot of things, like a lot of lives were at stake. Could he save lives if he negotiated? I mean, to me, that's what it came across to. But I don't know the history about it, the details about it. I don't know if even did that even happen.
If it even- yeah, who knows?
Did he go to
Yeah.
the subway even that happened?
Did
it
he
probably
even
did.
look like that?
You know,
the other.
I mean,
the other.
the
sorry.
way that you were talking about how they kind of left out some of the things with Churchill, like in The Crown, they make him more disgusting, like a little bit more grosser, and so they kind of glossed that over a little bit. They were like, "Oh, he has all these little things that you got to look out for," but
Well, you
then
know-
he
you know-
was actually more disgusting than that.
Well, you know, what'd be interesting is
Maybe. I don't
what
know.
is the real truth? Because everybody like there's so many perspectives about historical people that you maybe you just ran into them on a bad day or a good day. You know what I mean? Like,
And then we
it's-
didn't really
don't
learn
know.
this in our history classes because we're Americans too. So
Yeah.
you know that's
So-
Yeah, we ain't Brits.
The other thing I would add that is kind of my issue with the post too is that one of the other side stories was, and I'll say it really quickly, was that Dunkirk gets brought up.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, what are we going to do about this dire situation? What are we going to do? And actually, to me, watching this movie, I felt myself wanting to know more about Dunkirk. And then I remembered that they made a movie about that, and that was the more interesting story.
It was called
so
Dunkirk.
yeah. So like, I was more interested in a thing that was happening in the movie than the politicians debating in a big room about what to do, which isn't the fault of the movie. They're telling what happened, but just to say, like, this wasn't as interesting to me.
No.
Not to say there weren't good stuff about the movie. It's just like,
Yeah.
I thought the cinematography and lighting was really good. Like literally, I know you said it's sensationalized. I actually thought that was the best part of the movie.
I like that. I think it's good.
They were
I think
trying
it's
to
good.
idealize
I'm
that
just
time and
describing
person.
what.
Yeah.
And I think that was a choice. That was a choice.
I thought the wife character was really good. I wasn't a big
Yeah.
fan of the typist from Baby Driver.
Oh, I was a big fan of her. Okay, but that's for other reasons.
well, they kind of hyped her up at the beginning, but they kind of like
No.
forgot about her later on.
But
in the film.
they
it did, and it made sense that their women are more quiet back then. You know, especially British women. Everybody's polite.
Yeah, I don't know, her character, the not arc of her character, but the substance of her character, I felt
There
really
was not
came in like that her brother was at Dunkirk, or it was somewhere where
that
he
your
died.
bro?
But and that was really all she had going for her. But that one scene with her was really
was
good, where he
powerful.
quietly kind of cries in the room and like while they're writing the speech, and
Yeah.
she's doing like I
He
thought
was
that was
hard
a
to
really good scene.
understand too, a little bit. He was going a little Bane on me a little bit.
but that's kind of like what I liked about Gary Oldman just doing that. It was I don't know. It was good for me.
Did you point out the Dark Knight Rises connection in it?
Go
Yeah,
on.
Gary Oldman obviously Commissioner Gordon,
Right.
and the one guy who played the king was the guy that Bane crushes his face. Like, what makes you think you're in charge? He's the king. He's also in Rogue One and the new Ready Player One movie.
I thought his character was actually really good.
Really good.
The king, and the relationship between King and Churchill, that actually had like a buddy friendship kind of arc to it of like, we hate each other, and then nope, we're pals now, even though we don't like each other that well.
He likes tea and I like crumpets. But we get along.
We get along just fine.
There's some lovely tea over here, sir. What about Dunkirk?
Has anybody here actually been to Britain? Are we way off?
I've never been.
I've never been happy.
Any last thoughts in our last 20 seconds?
Well, you mentioned Dunkirk. I watched Dunkirk right before Darkest Hour. I watched them back to back, and so I felt very patriotic afterwards.
Good.
Yeah, that's my final.
Well, speaking of which, our next movie is Dunkirk. So, perfect segue.
Matt, I think you should take Dunkirk first.
Okay.
I think Matt, because this is Matt was all, oh God, this is so great.
I liked it too.
I know, but Matt was all about it when we left the theaters.
Yeah. Well, so if you want to know our expanded, are you going to start the timer so I know?
Well, okay.
Dunkirk.
I thought I'd do it, but there you go.
Yeah. So Dunkirk, if you want to hear us talk, Aaron, Ben, and I talk for over an hour about Dunkirk. This is the one movie we actually did a podcast on from the summer.
Sum it up real quick for you, and then we can let Colin take the majority of this.
Sure. So Dunkirk, I actually think this movie, of all the movies, and again, my overall observation for all the Best Picture nominees this year was feeling of trapped and feeling helpless, which I think is reflective of, or interesting, whether intentional or not, of America right now. Which you can agree with or not, but I feel like you can project the idea that at least 3 or 4 of the movies this year are topical in some way. You could argue that Darkest Hour, Churchill has some the fact that he's lying to the public and how he's a leader. That's a little bit shakier as this not authoritarian figure, but figurehead for entire government. Then The Post obviously has connotations. Get Out has connotations as well. I actually felt like Dunkirk is the one movie that was most a movie about 2017. And I say that because it reveals this idea of an unwinnable situation and how civilians come to the need of others in this this very literal way of showing activism in place, and it literally saved the day. And I thought that was a really powerful narrative element that happened to be true. And then the other side of it, this was the movie I can think of that we usually have an issue. We talk a lot about Marvel movies sucking because they use spectacle and effects for no reason, and they're just kind of thrown in. Well,
the reason is to keep you engaged.
Right,
there's nothing there.
But it's very superficial. I feel like this movie of any movie I've seen in a very long time use spectacle with a deliberate purpose.
It was a good spectacle
to convey war and other character elements in a very unique way, and and if you think about every single scene, as big as it was and as loud as it was, everything is still in these tight quarters of in a cockpit where you're kind of trapped in a sinking ship where you're about to drown, or running on land where you have nowhere to go. Everything is still, you're all still constantly feeling like you're trapped
on a bridge waiting for a boat.
Right. And the psychological element is very unique, and they still used effects to such a brilliant way.
A lot of it was real physical. It was all real physical. I
saw the set photos of the sinking ship and all that.
Yeah.
I love the way they mounted the camera when the one ship goes down, and it was it was
stationary to the boat.
Yeah. And it was this really cool effect. I think overall it was a really good movie. It was really submersive, for lack of a better word, putting you in the experience. All right, Colin, take it away.
Well, to go off of what you guys are saying, one of the I feel like this is one of the most realist war movies I've seen because Christopher Nolan only picked guys that were a certain age. Hardy was the oldest one in the movie, and I thought that, well, not the oldest soldier in the movie, and I
Makes
felt
sense
that was
'cause he's
really
a pilot.
cool.
Yeah.
And so it made sense for him to be there, but all the ground troops and stuff being young boys, I mean, that was real. That was
Useful, sir.
And everything was real. Like the
Yeah,
real
and-
ships, real planes.
and it felt very real. I mean, definitely, I was on the edge of my seat. I was at home. I didn't get to see it in the theater. I was at
Oh,
home
IMAX was great.
on the edge of my seat with the sound. I had to stop it a few times because it kept on pushing on my bladder. I was so tight, like I had to pee a couple times. But
This
I was
diamond came out. I don't know what happened to it.
Well, they should sell the DVD with a bedpan. That would solve a lot of problems.
and I want to know what happened to Tom Hardy because
that was a great end. I thought that was
it
an
was
awesome.
great.
to be.
And
All that
I
matters
said
is
new
survive.
franchise opportunity. Dunkirk 2. When's
Yeah.
that come?
Dunkirk
Did you
2.
stay after the
Electric
credits?
Boogaloo.
Did you stay after the credits?
Tony Stark shows up.
Only thing that kind of
Nazis? I hate those guys.
Timeline a little bit.
Yeah, I
some-
agree. The timeline is kind of the weak link.
Oh, come on. It wasn't
Oh.
that bad.
But the editing was really good because
I was
kept
never
me on
confused.
edge the whole time.
Yeah.
I was confused a couple times just because it went dark and then it was daytime. And
They gave you enough contextual clues to put the pieces
But I also
together.
think that was purposeful to make you feel confused.
Yeah, because
A little bit
war
like
is
'cause
confusing.
you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of takes
throws you off.
It throws you off. You know, just like changing the carpet in
Shining.
The Shining.
It'd be great.
The slight little things like that was off-putting. I actually got a headache after I left that movie.
It'd be the funniest thing ever to have Nolan on here live, and we tell him like, "What, did you do that on purpose?" He's like, "No, it just happened."
No.
No, we
I'm
were-
glad I thought of it.
He was
though.
like, we were behind in editing and we didn't have time to. make the
Somebody
master
screwed
cut.
up the edit files.
Well, I think it's easy to discount too that this is a World War II movie.
What?
This is a war movie.
It's a World War II movie?
Well,
Crazy.
I'm just like, I don't think people talk about it as a war necessarily
No.
as a war movie, but
It's
it,
not
no,
your
you're
standard
right.
war
You're right.
movie.
It's so
Because, like,
unique
when I
that
think
it-
about
but-
a war movie, I probably wouldn't have gone and seen it. Like, it wouldn't be on my list of like, oh, I got to go see this war movie. I'm just not that type of guy. But
Yeah.
like you're saying, go on. I totally agree.
It felt
yeah, well, like so last year, Hacksaw Ridge. That's a very conventional, like War Horse. I'm trying to think of some that have been.
Saving Private Ryan.
Just best pick, like any war movie.
Thunder.
They're all kind of in the same. Even on TV, they're all kind of the same. There's blood and an enemy. Like we don't even see the enemy in this. Really, we just see kind of gun flashes and
Are you the
planes
enemy?
with
of our side.
faceless people in it. Like we don't even see human beings
That's because they
anywhere as the
confined it
enemy,
to the
which
Yeah,
is
their own
brothers
perspective of the
at war,
protagonist
they can't
and
even
stuff.
figure out. Yeah,
You know, but
sorry.
which
Yeah.
I think is a good thing and a bad thing. To be honest,
I don't think it's bad. I think it's a great
I think
idea
it's good.
for a movie.
I think interesting vehicle, but I think where Saving Private Ryan was pretty good was that the enemy is just trapped too. You know what I mean? Like they're young kids too. They're people too. You know what I mean? That no one's really bad. I mean, yeah, the Nazis are bad, but like, do you think all the soldiers are bad? Mm-hmm. They're fighting a political war, like from this crazy
We're all
dictator.
trying to figure out our
well,
own
it's,
problems.
and they do a great job of making this about survival. Even
They do, but I think if you humanize the enemy, it makes it a more impactful.
yeah,
war
that's
film
true.
to
I see.
my point of view.
So Chauncey, this is a good ad for our conversation. Chauncey said Dunkirk uses expansive scenery successfully to make me feel, what would I do to survive this by myself?
Yeah.
Which I think is great. That's
Very
a great
good.
observation.
That's what it felt like, was
a
being
good
by
point.
yourself.
It was a good point, and
Yeah.
you followed
Yeah.
that one guy for the most part.
Yeah, did you guys stop and think about like what you would do in those situations? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
you were there.
Yeah, you wouldn't be so noble, would you? I don't
Like-
think so at all. You can't blame him. You wouldn't be so noble. So
Whatever
we
it takes
think
to
we would be.
survive sometimes.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, just trying to survive.
And the
Definitely.
heartbeat the whole time was a cool thing. the heartbeat.
I thought it was a clock ticking.
Well, that's what I mean. But the clock ticking heartbeat kind of like
Yeah.
tempo was a great one to start it and
Absolutely.
it stopped.
Absolutely.
It was
Yeah.
really well done.
And just some again, not just the spectacle of it, but this, and we'll get to it when we vote, I'm sure, but the filmmaking to get some of these shots with the real things that weren't all special effects
And
necessar-
IMAX
like
film.
it's just amazing to me, some of the technical achievement, like we can't discount.
It redeemed Nolan in my eyes. A
Yeah,
bit.
just like the shot
thought
of the
it was good.
plane not like with no engine, just drifting.
Oh.
like
Cool.
just some of those like
Yeah.
of all angles too. How many? Like it's
many
amazing
cameras?
that they did
It's
that
beautiful.
stuff.
He's a really good technical director.
All right, next one. Get
Every time.
Aaron has the air horn on this side.
all right. Our what movie? We're our fourth movie. Get Out. One of the more
Sorry,
interesting.
wrong graphic. Remake Ragnarok. There we go.
Remake
Start.
All right, Get Out. Ben, start with you.
I thought Get Out was a really fun, good, suspenseful thriller, psychological thriller, and like survival, tip similar to Dunkirk, of overcoming, being quarantined. And speaking of feeling trapped, the way they showed you being trapped when he went to the thinking place
When he was hypnotized,
When he
yeah.
was hypnotized, was so claustrophobic, and it's like it was such a beautiful, wonderful visual way of showing what it would feel like being like in the astral plane of your mind, just seeing this tunnel vision. It was very claustrophobic, and
Not in control of yourself.
it's very gave me a little bit of anxiety. I thought it was a really good thriller. I thought it was funny. Like the TSA buddy was so funny in it. He was so funny. He made me laugh at the very end so hard. I think he's my favorite character out of all of them. To me, it reminded me a lot of Alfred Hitchcock. It had a really good thrill to it. But I don't think it's the best picture, by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was a good movie, but I think it was like, I've seen the symbolism was good in it. What it would feel like to be a black person, in a white person's world. It was a little over the top because these people were psychos, but I guess that was the whole point, to make you feel like, this is how you feel, especially at the beginning when he's walking in the suburb.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a thriller, like I've seen thrillers like this before, and they're good. But I think, I don't know. I think it was good. And I enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites. But I don't think it's best picture worthy to me.
Colin, what do you think?
I'm glad the Academy is recognizing it. But I do agree with you, Ben. I don't see it winning Best Picture, but I do like that it's on there. I am looking forward to Jordan Peele's movies and
good.
seeing what else he's gonna do. I love all the symbolism throughout the whole movie, like separating the Fruit Loops from the milk. At first, it's like, "What are you doing, weirdo?"
Yeah.
But then you're like, "Oh,
The colors,
symbolism."
the color.
The deer stuff. I thought I didn't get that at first. I had to.
I don't get the deer stuff.
So at the start, so the deer jumps in front of the
Yeah.
car as like a warning, but then there's Bradley Whitford's character mentions that they're overpopulated, and I get rid of them as far as I say, and then you see the trophy of the deer at the end, like it's all sort of like
Symbolism of getting rid of black people.
yeah, like you don't. And that's kind of the
Genocide.
interesting angle of this whole movie and the allegory is that like people, even white people who project that they are not racist, still
racist.
have racist, and they're not necessarily, and they still appropriate black people for their own means, and like they're not totally, Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
Oh no, absolutely, I agree with all that, and I thought it was a very fun thriller for being like it was supposed to be somewhat horror film. It was still funny. I like adding in humor into horror films. I really enjoyed the silent auction. Like that was
Yeah.
That was really
wild
powerful.
to watch, and like the way
like
that
when
they
you think
shot
of like
it
a
and
slave
stuff.
auction,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of good parallels with that too.
It was like, but it was great because what was great about it is that you're watching it in real time, like what's going on, and then it all like connects at the end. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my god, you know.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
If you hadn't had the movie ruined for you and you went into it and just watched it, I hope that is everybody's first time, because it was really fun not knowing what it was all about until the movie. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
intriguing.
Until you see it.
So I agree with everything you guys have said. I think I wouldn't say obviously. I think the strongest part for me is how they used, to Ben's point, kind of like familiar thriller or sci-fi tropes and apply this racial allegory on top of it in a very unique way, I think, that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the power behind the whole movie. And I think the performances, Daniel Kaluuya, who was in, we just saw in Black Panther, and he's in this.
He's better in this.
He's very good in this.
Yeah.
And
the girlfriend was good too.
yeah, and I think the elements of sci-fi and the elements of horror, I think they are also, to Jordan Peele's credit, very strong.
Yeah.
Like they are tense. That it is very
It's
like
Hitchcock.
kind of interesting. Yeah, you're right. So when I saw this the first time when it
suspense.
first came out, I had the same reaction of like, this is a best picture. Like this, people think this will be a best picture. What? Come on. I rewatched it last week. I think it definitely should be on the list, although I still have. So one of my issues the first time around, I had two issues. One of them is held, the other hasn't. The first is that I felt like when I first saw it that it felt like an elongated sketch. Like there were elements of a sketch that were kind of tacked on, and I felt
Peele
like
is known for sketches.
the TSA stuff felt like
great.
Jordan Peele comedy stuff added on top of the
Oh,
movie.
I didn't feel that.
I am wrong about that. I'm definitely wrong. Although I still feel like the TSA stuff feels kind of jarring to me.
I think,
Like on top of how like serious everything else is.
but I
like,
think that's why it makes it a complete movie to me, because okay, and it actually grounds it a little bit to make it even scarier for me. This is how my reaction. Like the very end, it all ties in because he pulls up and
yeah, the
spoilers
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point.
We're all
he pulls up in the police car, and you think, oh
yeah,
shit,
and the police
and
stuff.
it's him,
Yeah,
it's
there's
TSA.
Yep.
And
That was good.
the best part was like you would have like when he comes in all bloody and stuff. You would like it was such a good dismount because you would
Yeah, I
act
was
you,
right.
that you would that
Yeah.
would be real. I told you not to go in
Yeah,
there. And
yeah.
he's
That's
like,
true. That was funny.
But like that I laughed so hard, but also like I laughed because it was real. Like,
You're right.
It grounded it, even though a lot of it was a little fantastical. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, that's my rub. Why I don't think it should be in Best Picture, even though like we have Shape of Water and stuff like that for Best Picture. It was too fantastical in the reality that they put it in.
Yeah.
That was my only rub. I wish it
So-
was more psychological.
Yes.
To be honest,
So
that's
my
the only
other
thing.
so as much as I think the characters, I thought it was great. I thought Daniel Kaluuya's character had an arc within the
Yeah.
movie, within the allegory. His character had like his mom's death. Like he actually had
assertive.
independent motivations of this other larger picture. But
And he was very passive at the beginning because he's so used to being
yeah.
in the front. But he was the one.
and he gets this
That
but
volleyball,
as much as
I
I
love
liked all the like subtle non-explicit racist comments throughout all building up to the end, I felt like, and this is something that's held from my first viewing, I felt like the payoff of them body swap, the reason they are body swapping, the ultimate reason was a little bit of a letdown. Like just we specifically want to put ourselves in black people because they are stronger, faster, cooler. Like they didn't that didn't like tie this great idea all together perfectly for me.
Stepford Wives.
And when you think about, oh, so like those were the grandparents, but what was the reason for a black person necessarily? Like, I don't know. It started to feel like I was just being
Because
strung
racism.
along for
Next
the sake
question.
of the idea,
Okay, well, I think
if that makes sense.
to the generalization of a black person being athletic and superior, like,
Yeah.
physique and stuff. I think they're trying to capture that racism. About
I think that's a good observation for sure.
But how many white guys
just-
in the NBA?
Yeah.
I'm just.
That's what I'm getting at. It just felt like, oh, that's it. Like it was almost like if they went way over the top with like, oh, these white people just have secretly hated black people the whole time and are trying to take them over. Like if they had gone so far over the top, I felt like it would have been just as, I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand.
I'm going to watch it again, obviously, so that's a good sign.
All right. Sorry, Colin. We kind
Hey,
of took
right
over.
on time.
We took over Colin.
That was good.
So, all right, number 5 or fifth
five.
movie, and I'll let you start this one, Colin.
Go.
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird was beautiful. It was a beautiful slice of life film. The mother's performance was great, and I actually did start tearing up when she didn't get out of the car at the airport
Yeah, that was
and she
so good.
drove around. I actually did tear up. It was like it's so wild how I'm not a woman. I didn't go
the whole
through
time. The whole time. That was appropriate, right?
Yeah, because Sally Field is a woman.
No, I'm just saying. That
I
he's
get
Rob
it.
But
Morgan.
it's just a lot of
Doubtfire.
these
Yeah.
a lot of this film, it was just hard to say, hey, I can connect with it, but I could. But I loved the way Lady Bird was so selfish, and that even in the movie things were happening without her knowing, and you were discovering it as it was happening with her. So I thought that was really good kind of editing. And I loved her dad, especially.
too.
I kept on thinking she's really lucky to have a dad like that, because when he's going up for the job and he sees the son, and instead of just being like, oh, I can't believe this, you're going to get it before me. No, he was very encouraging and was just like, good luck in there, and I was just like, man,
Yeah.
I love you, Dad.
That's good. that was good writing.
Yeah.
I actually I agree with Colin. I related to it like a lot because one, it took place 2002 2003 is when she graduated, right? That's when Colin and I graduated high
Yeah.
school. So we were like
Wow.
post 9/11 thing. So that happened when we were in school. I went to Catholic schools as a kid, not that strict, but still pretty strict. So I know all the stuff, which is funny. And I did theater in high school. So I knew all, like, I laughed at all the stupid stuff, of that. And I related to it, and I thought she was very good, and she carried the whole show, and she was
Saoirse
interesting.
Ronan. She's really
She's
good.
really good. And I thought
We're
it
going to
was,
hear her name more and more in the future.
I liked the editing of it. It was
Greta Gerwig, who's nominated for Best Director. I thought she did a good job.
this is the opposite of
and she wrote it too.
this is the opposite of
Call Me by Your Name.
It's
Yeah.
like, it was like,
This is like, we're not going to linger here.
but they don't linger, but they also don't clutter it too much with too much. What's the word? There's a word for it. They don't make it
Simple.
convoluted. But it was because it was centralized. The mom was great. She was great.
Laura Metcalf was I thought the best part of the
Did
movie.
you know?
the mom?
Do you know what else she's seeing?
I don't know.
She's Andy's mom in Toy Story, and she's in Roseanne,
The only thing I can say that's disappointing to me about this movie is
and she's
that
the officer in Frasier, right? The
She's
one
in
officer.
Big Bang. She's the mother
Yeah.
in Big Bang too.
Huh, yeah.
when I heard the name of this movie, I was disappointed to find out that it's not a King of the Hill movie.
It's not Reagan's dog.
It's not Hank Hill's dog.
No, I thought it was a really good movie. I enjoyed
Yes,
it.
wait, not Reagan's dog. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Lady Bird.
Reagan's dog, I guess, if you wanted to be really mean.
a good dog.
Sorry, keep going.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
fine. I thought it was good. I thought it was
I'll
really.
tell you
I enjoyed
what.
it. I laughed. I thought it was a good movie.
So I thought, I actually thought I take it back. Not the best part of the movie wasn't Saoirse Ronan, wasn't the mom. I thought it was the use of Dave Matthews' Crash to deliver major story arc points.
Oh my gosh,
I thought that was so good.
that's hilarious.
But seriously, I thought the letters was a great scene. That was a really powerful. The fact that, and it was less about what she wrote in the letters and more about how many drafts there were that then the dad secretly sent from the mom to her. I thought that was
beautiful.
that was almost more important. And I also loved the kind of classism elements that they were poor and struggling so much, and like how that worked into like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality of the whole family. I will say I have a much less positive view of this movie than you guys do, and I fully know that it's a subjective. It's sort of like my opinion about the movie Boyhood, if any of you have seen that. In that it is so familiar to me personally. It feels, and maybe I'm I've said the word.
Here he goes, projecting.
Maybe I'm assuming other people are the same as me. That this movie felt like,
Look, I'm projecting.
like generalized specifics. Like here's a specific story, but it's something that is so relatable by so many people. Like how many people do you know that? Like I know people in my own life who have had mother-daughter relationships like this. I know people who went to high school have had experiences like this. I've heard people that Catholic school experiences like this. Like it just felt, although it was like a unique story that I don't think I've ever heard before, it still felt like the specific characters felt just so, and maybe it's just, again, the time period.
How
too.
dare they make it relatable to an audience?
No,
Well, it's
I
just
think
like
what
speaking,
you're saying is because it was very real.
Yeah,
Like the characters
yeah.
were very real, and they
Yeah.
were all individual too. It wasn't like there was two characters that were the same.
Yeah, well, it's just,
and that's what I loved also.
And for me, it's just like if it's a movie where it seems like I know that person and I know this exact experience, I prefer movies that are unique, like things I haven't seen before that don't like I haven't lived with my entire life. Basically,
Okay, I totally
That's
understand.
kind of
where you're
my
coming from.
perspective.
I totally see that because the kind of way that
Snob.
I'm kind of going off of that is that I think it seemed like that because Lady Bird wanted to have those experiences. Like she forced herself to be in those kind of experiences, and so
That's a good point,
came
yeah.
off very average, and you're like, okay, I can pick that out.
That's
But
it's maybe
yeah.
it's like more about. I mean, to the movie's credit, even that it's able to accomplish this kind of familiarity, but they use almost what's expected of a high school kid to get to that and tell a unique story. So, now I'm backpedaling. You're
No.
convincing me.
I think your point is really good. I think it's a really good.
What I like it is the resolve at the end. She wanted to do all these things, and in her heart of hearts, she missed Sacramento. She missed, and like what I loved is when the nun said to her, "You really love it here." And he's like, "What makes you think that?" Because
That was good.
She
That was really
realizes
good.
that because
Yeah. Yep.
you describe it more than anybody else. And then she loved her mom, and like it was beautiful to me in that regard. Here she got everything she wanted. She's in New York. She's walking around, and it's like she's in the biggest city in the world, but she's never felt so alone.
There's one line that I remember. I think it was actually delivered by Danny, who's the we were talking about earlier, who's her first boyfriend when she has a cast, when she's all sheltered and protected, and then she finds out that symbolism, derp. When she finds out that he's gay, and then everything falls apart, and then she dates the bad boy Timothée Chalamet. But Danny says French is useful if you want to go to Paris, and so just sort of that like mindset of like idealism of these specifically big cities, but just about when we get out of this crap town and are free of all these constraints, then it'll all be so great. And
I'm gonna spoil it for you kids. Every town is crap.
Yeah, well, just like these random skills that may seem useless that I think are worthwhile,
But
like it shows like a lack of reality. Almost.
well, the lack of reality, but also like you said, when we're so constrained, like the only thing that constrains you is you.
And money.
Well, money, but also like you put limitations on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
know,
also
and
think
you could be
of it,
anywhere.
it helps you like kind of.
That's true.
She's just wanting more out of herself, and like he wanted more too. So I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, looking at the timer. I was telling Ben to shut up.
He's like, let Colin talk.
Let him go.
I was like, I don't
You wait your turn.
All right. Next up is Phantom Thread, which you and I saw together, Ben.
yeah, here it is. See it?
You almost got it.
There it is. See it? Oh no, it's a specter. Phantom Thread. Colin, I was just doing a
10 seconds
all right,
wasted.
All right.
Doing a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go first.
That sounds like the movie.
So
Awkward.
this is a now I'm blank. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah,
Thomas
Paul
Anderson
Thomas
movie,
Anderson. Yeah.
which
Drink your milkshake.
Not only is his style of filmmaking really unique, the way the characters he decides to explore, like his movies are very character driven as opposed to big picture plot.
Yeah.
I don't know, like framework or time period necessarily. Like I feel like he spends a lot of time thinking through the characters
He's
and
a real
where
actor,
they
director.
can go.
But
Yeah.
he's also good cinematography too.
Role for sure. And so
Yeah.
this is obviously another Daniel Day-Lewis. Like this to me just secures Daniel Day-Lewis in Mount Rushmore actor status for me.
least it
Like I
wasn't
felt like
Lincoln.
his role in this, or his
Ben
performance for this
Kingsley would be
role-
on there, but he's a whore. He's a movie whore.
A
He'll take
whore?
any job.
Iron Man 3. Daniel Day-Lewis I thought was amazing. I don't know how he does it, but to take such a
I think money helps.
oddball kind of
old so and so.
oddball character with all these different and invent these mannerisms and
Well,
yeah,
you don't
just
have a 9 to
amazing.
5. It's
So-
easy to come up with that kind of stuff. I
to that
suspect.
too.
All right, go ahead, Colin.
I just if you've never seen a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, he is very character driven, and what's really cool is that he'll make subtle things very impactful, and that's what I really love. And his movies are very rewatchable because like certain things will hit me at certain times for his movies. This is supposed to be possibly Daniel Day-Lewis's last film. He might retire after this, and his big reason why was he couldn't get out of the mindset of this role. He's such a method actor that it really messed him up to go back to real life, and this has been talked about, and so it's just like
He's the real life Kirk Lazarus.
it's really amazing. And then Paul Thomas Anderson's really cool about little things that I kind of picked up, and I want to rewatch it again. But Daniel Day-Lewis's character Reynolds didn't look anybody in the eye until Alma came into picture, and I thought that was kind of beautiful in a lot of ways. Like he didn't really see other people, and
Yeah, he sees them as
yeah.
props or whatever for his dresses.
Yeah, and I love like the awkwardness of his sister / assistant coming in to their date. It totally changed the vibe of the room when she came in to do the measurements and stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, I really liked what you were saying about the how Paul Thomas Anderson is in his filmmaking and stuff. But and for the last thing is that like just the whole poisoning aspect of the
Yeah.
film, like
He's a masochist.
how she was trying to hide it at first, and then the second time she was doing it in front of him. She was like, I don't care
Yep.
if you know. And then he could have spit it out. He could have spit it
Yeah.
out right there.
But he wanted
That's,
that.
it's
yeah,
so
he wanted
unique.
it.
Yeah.
He wanted it, and
but
that's,
he wanted-
that's Paul
that's what-
Thomas
that's-
Anderson for you.
That's what was interesting about the whole thing, which I kind of liked because he's kind of a masochist, but he liked
being dominant, like babied almost. He liked being nurtured, like, and it
Well,
relates
kinda
to his
felt like
mom
he
too.
needed
relates to his, it relates
Yeah.
to his mother, and he loves that feeling. He misses his mother so much, which I love.
Oh, it's so
I love,
psychologically, like this guy needs a psychiatrist.
I do, but I
Yeah,
love
and-
the
and
scene when
something
he's
that's
poisoned.
subtle. Like, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Colin.
No, it was something.
You
that's
rude
so
little
subtle
bastard!
was,
Go ahead.
Was the music was very subtle throughout the whole thing, and I really loved it. Like just
Yeah.
it really like got to me. I was like, oh man, I really like that music that was throughout the whole thing.
I don't know what I'm going to pick when we get to our picks, but I literally wrote when I was taking notes during this movie that the music is perfect. Like, I didn't write that for any other movie, but I've had the feeling like every time the music kicked in, it was like
Are
perfect
you a
tone
Radiohead
setting.
fan?
No, but
Oh,
I am
okay.
of this movie. fan.
I love the
Yes.
There Will Be Blood music. That was good.
Yeah.
But
So,
That's
Ben-
Radiohead also.
I know.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
why,
yeah.
That's why I said that.
So,
Colin.
Ben, what else stood out for you?
No, my favorite shot was the whole time when he was sick the first time and he sees a vision of his mother. It was very eerie.
Yeah.
She's just standing there. She doesn't move. You shouldn't move. And like she comes in, and,
Almost coming in and out,
Then
yeah.
she cuts off camera. They don't like spoon feed you. Say, oh, it's gone, clearly vision. But it's really,
They challenge you a little bit.
but it was really good. Mm-hmm. It was really like that's how you would see a haunting of your mind. You know.
When this is while he's poisoned and feverish and stuff
Oh yeah,
too.
it was
yeah.
good. I like that sequence.
Yeah. I thought Alma and the poisoning stuff was not only was the rest of the movie very unique in how the characters and like, oh, it's a movie about a dressmaker and we're going to show every detail about this. Like I didn't think I'd ever watch a movie about that, but then the movie never goes where you think it's going to go. And especially in the payoff with the poisoning stuff, I never would have expected that. Like it started to go towards, well, Alma agrees to marry him. And then it's like, oh, there's this age difference dynamic all of a sudden, and you think that's going to be the end of it. Nope, not at all. That they play that out, and then it hard right turns to something else, and it leads back to this mother psychosis issue. The weakest part of the movie for me was the whole rich lady who gets drunk in his dress diversion.
Oh yeah,
I thought that I think it had a good line out of it, like a good outcome of like, you don't deserve to wear his dresses.
You know,
like that's an interesting mentality, but I don't know. I felt like it was kind of odd to have that in here based on how good of the other characters were. Sorry,
this is off topic, but Aaron would like that character because she's BB from Frasier. she's Frasier's agent.
She's very dramatic.
She's very dramatic. She's over the top, anyways, and she was over top in this sequence. But like, she's actually pretty funny in Frasier.
Who's working for you?
And as part of that, like, I thought Alma was a really good character. But some of the scenes, so on top of that, she's the one that's like, you don't deserve to wear his dresses, right? But then later she like storms out, and the whole movie, she was supposed to be this representative of like, I'm going to challenge this unimpeachable figure that's Daniel Day-Lewis. Like nobody challenges him at any point, and everyone lets him do whatever he wants and follows routines. And then she comes in and kind of disrupts all that and provides like, I'm going to challenge you to not be so egocentric and like think about my side of the relationship, basically. But then I don't know, it felt kind of weird that she was standing up to like, oh, his dresses, you don't deserve to wear the dress. I don't know, some of that like
No, I think
conflict didn't come
know.
through for me.
I don't know.
I feel like that was just
I think
because she wanted to show her love for him.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. No,
I also
that's
think
fair.
that's a waste of lead. On
Lead?
her part.
lead.
Lead. Shouldn't have wrote that down. Ink and lead.
I see.
Is a bad joke.
I'm not followed.
Thank you.
wasn't
And the Oscar goes to no one. All right.
I liked that there was also like a curse dynamic hovering over everything. That was just kind of a weird throw in that like a curse existed.
Cursed dresses.
Nothing. All right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to our rankings.
Once
but-
again, right on time.
Right on the
Look
button,
at
yeah.
that.
Managing this. Boop, boop. All right. One I'm really excited about. Shape of Water.
Shape
One
of Water.
moment.
Hold on. We got technical
Colin has been
difficulties.
disconnected.
Colin, yeah.
And no wonder he wasn't talking.
I was going to say there's a few.
I am calling him back.
He's
So-
calling them back.
While we
Colin.
wait, this is actually good. We've got a few minutes.
We got a few minutes.
We're doing good. I think.
Right.
Well, we're gonna have to continue without Colin for a moment.
Okay. Sure.
So I'll start the timer.
So here's a little vamp until he comes back.
Yeah,
This
we're-
is something I
I'll
didn't say.
unstart the timer.
All right.
then.
Vamp.
This is something I didn't say until earlier, or I didn't get a chance to say earlier because I wanted to keep us moving.
Mm-hmm.
But on this podcast, I feel like we fall back on a lot of. We fall back on Colin. We'll start.
And we're back.
Colin's back.
Sorry about
There's
that.
two things
Sorry
I
about
want to
that,
say. So we fall back on a lot of criticisms of movies during our normal podcast that come up a lot, and I felt like it'd be good
stinks.
to call out sort of that these movies don't fall into that. Like, it's possible to not be that bad, right? So one is show don't tell. We say that constantly.
Yes.
I
That
have
we
it on the
wish
soundboard right
exposition
here.
wasn't the fault. But I feel like these movies, all 9 of them actually, are really good examples where they don't rely on just like word
This is
dumping,
what's happening.
exposition dumping.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Do you guys?
3 Billboards kind of does, but it doesn't in a way. They reveal the information in pieces.
Yeah.
So I,
think
guess that
there's an
yeah, yeah,
addendum
yeah.
to show, don't tell.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And the other one is we all, and this is more of a
You're right,
personal
you're right,
one.
you're right.
In terms of character, but specifically their motivations. Like, we have a problem when they just do something where we don't have enough
It
information.
doesn't
It
make
feels
sense.
random.
Last Jedi.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
I
I just
felt
threw
like
up in my mouth a little bit.
for the most part, these movies have crafted believable
Believable
characters that have
motivation
good
for characters.
Right.
Yes.
So
You're right.
All right.
Wait,
You're right.
small addendum to show don't tell. Leave certain little things to the imagination. Don't
mystery box.
don't show everything.
Yeah.
Leave it a little bit ambiguous.
So
Did you get that?
yes,
all right.
I wonder why Mother wasn't nominated.
That's right.
I kind
We
of
haven't
wish
even
it
talked
was
about
for Schadenfreude reasons.
Oh gosh. It's
Time
probably
or
'cause
go.
that
It's
was
a
the
the
post.
Academy hates the environment. All right.
Did I miss out on a lot? I'm sorry, guys.
No,
No,
we
you're good, you're
vamped.
good.
We
All right, we're doing Shape of Water.
water.
Shape of Water. Ben,
It's out of order.
why don't you go first?
I thought Shape of Water. I actually think
It's
that's
shaped
the best
up to be a
music.
fine movie.
Yeah, you should see the shape in my water.
Very cylindrical.
30 seconds in. All right, go.
Ugh. What is that? Is that from the Amazon?
Colin, can you hear us?
We got live one here.
Okay, just making
Like,
sure.
unfortunately, I can hear you.
The shape,
All right,
shape of Water was,
best music.
I think it was best music. I loved it. I thought it was really good. I was surprised that they would actually nominate it for best picture because usually that kind of movie doesn't get nominated for it. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of in its own section of its own in terms of kind of storytelling, but it does a really cool way of prejudice.
Ben, 2018, Prejudice.
Is that a reading world?
No, but it is now.
Strategery.
yeah.
I'm going to use that, by the way. Hope you don't mind.
Can we cut that out? It does a really good job of showing bigotry.
There you go.
That's the word I
Yeah.
want.
Rolls a strike.
But in a very not so direct way. Anyways, someone else take it.
All right, Colin, what are your thoughts?
My script is running dry.
It's very artistic, and that's one of the biggest things that I love about this. That it is on this list, and it is artsy, and so if it does win Best Picture, it means that the Academy is recognizing art again, just like they did with the Birdman.
Yeah.
Still, if it had the
Artist
Hollywood
and-
thing to Birdman, this one was very artsy.
It's not going
Had
to
a
win.
lot of had a lot of
political to
symbolism.
win.
There was
It
some
had-
politicalness in it.
It had
I don't know.
some really cool symbolism, like the poster. The example that really stood out was the poster that her friend made. They were kind of like the misfit toys.
Yep,
And
yep.
and
I love that.
he had to make a poster of what the perfect family is. And what I loved is there's a scene where they're inside the agent's house in his perfect family, and the wife offers Jell-O, and it's exactly the poster that he made.
Yeah. And
I
also
love
his
that.
poster got rejected too, which is funny.
Yeah. And just like the switch from red to green and all that, and it was a very beautiful movie. I liked that every character was very individual. They had their own kind of voice, and I think Guillermo
Guillermo del Toro. Yeah.
he
Guillermo.
phenomenal. And I'm loving that he's being recognized this year. He needed to be recognized. He's done so many amazing things. And
Well, I can't wait till
agree.
Pacific Rim 2 gets nominated for Best Picture. It's gonna be amazing.
I wanted to give a little thing was at my movie going, I could see this older lady in my view, and all the finger scenes, she made the best faces, and so watching her during every single finger scene was the best.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah,
and when
I'm
he ripped
sure.
it off, she physically had to walk out of the theater. Like,
Was
not
he
really
nominated?
walk.
I bet.
It
Was he
more of a-
nominated for Best Supporting Actor?
I was about to ask you guys what you thought that Michael Shannon was not nominated.
Bullshit.
I'm surprised by
Well,
that.
he should have been is Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor because he was amazing.
He
was
can
amazing.
bring
I
that
didn't
up.
realize
I agree,
that.
though. Michael Shannon
Oh
was
my God.
a force in this, and
What?
the fact that he's stuck in this 1950s brain, kind
Yeah.
of too. Yeah, it's just
That's bullshit.
it's really good.
Well, I'm even more mad that he didn't get nominated for his little cameo in Groundhog Day. Too.
Quit plugging our podcast, Ben.
Ah,
Remake Jack and Heart.
I agree with you
Do it.
100%, Colin. I feel like Guillermo del Toro has a history of this kind of dark, whimsical nature, it's almost like a fairy tale that goes to hell almost, and like has like it's grounded in reality, but still has fantastical elements in it that lead you to like an even more powerful conclusion than you would get in like a fairy tale ending. And so I'm really happy that this movie's getting nominated because not only is it, I don't know, this feels like a more accessible Guillermo del Toro movie than something like Pan's Labyrinth.
come on, that was like the entry level artsy type
Yes,
fantasy.
but this is like, whoa, man! Like you got chops. Like you can take a
Well-
huge budget, you can take a huge premise, and really land it.
Aren't you all disappointed that he never got to direct The Hobbits? Just
That might
went
have
off
been
in his.
I mean,
Sure.
elements
Yeah.
of him
But-
are in it still. I mean,
Yeah,
all the
but-
Goblin
and that-
King stuff is him.
Well, but like the thing about Guillermo del Toro too, and to your point about
Remake
The
it.
Hobbit,
Rethink
is
it.
that
Or
he,
just leave it alone.
even though he could take a big property, and in this case, it's still a big movie that he had his fingerprints on the whole thing. He's still not afraid to take risks. And while I feel like some of my two least favorite scenes, and really the only two scenes I wasn't a big fan of, or at least felt kind of jarring, and on a rewatch I may even think differently, was them in the bathroom with the water. I felt like that was kind
Yeah.
of weird, and then also the random dance number from Sally Hawkins' character's
I like
point
that,
of view.
though.
Like the fact though that those are in this movie are still positives for me. Like I think it's amazing that he did something like that.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it came from the narrator's point of view of trying to make it more of a beautiful telling of the tale because the narrator through it was like it came from his perspective.
Yeah.
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 But I agree with you. It is really jarring and stuff.
Go ahead.
So I would just say my biggest positive, in addition to the whole movie being, not only are the characters and the main plot that kind of drives everything about the monster and her falling in love, and then it becomes kind of a heist movie, but like it's kind of grounded in this outcasts and freaks kind of mentality of we're in the wrong time. I feel like there's just so many different angles to watch this movie on rewatches that you could latch onto. One being that it's kind of a love letter to monster movies and sci-fi. Like there's a good element to creating a good monster in this movie, which is Guillermo del Toro. It's a good love story. It's a freaks outcast movie about coming together with people like you to like feel connected. It's a movie set in the 1960s period piece where you've got civil rights stuff happening, Cold War stuff happening. Then it's about exploring the future. Like there's a whole bunch of lines and moments in this movie about like this is the future and we got to be progressive and go towards that, and how it colors people's motivations, whether it's people embracing and trying to go towards that future, or people like Michael Shannon who want to like keep things the way they are and don't want any change at all. And then just all the different like I don't know, the idea that people are stuck in this time but are still trying to make the best of it. I don't know, there's just so many different angles that I loved. So
The anger
talked a lot.
I like what you just said called making a good monster movie, and and has a very Beauty and the Beast feel to it, where the monster is really Michael Shannon's character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
a Gaston kind of character, and that's what was I liked about it. This is a small little thing, nothing to do with the movie, but This has been in the works for a while and still in development, but he's set to direct and write. I think help write a version of Pinocchio, and I think that'd be an amazing movie.
And you saw who's on there right now, right? Tony Stark himself.
Oh man,
I can't wait.
As Pinocchio, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Or no,
He is pretty short. So.
Geppetto.
He's actually going to play the whale. Okay.
Yeah, he's Tony Stark making all right, Pinocchio.
Ah, geez, wrong key.
My only
Go ahead, Colin.
my only
One
thing
last
is
point.
if Guillermo del Toro ever wants to invite me to his house, I would really love to come over.
Me too.
Just want to put it out there.
Remake Dragonheart.
Yeah. All right. Second to last movie, 3 Billboards.
Go.
This was another one you and I saw together.
Yeah,
Ben.
we hold hands.
I remember afterwards, you and I were both like, "Wow, that was really good."
And you called me Matt Krager for some reason. You call me by your name.
Cool.
Sexy.
Yeah.
I'll take it. This was my favorite one. This was my favorite.
Wow, spoiler.
It
Jeez.
is. I'm just gonna say it's my favorite one. I enjoyed it the most because it was an all-star cast. The acting was really good. I went in cold. It got me. Like, I was engaged the whole time. I love every character in it. I love each actor in it. I thought the story was riveting, and everybody had like an arc, to an extent, especially Sam Rockwell's character. Woody Harrelson was great, and I really enjoyed, the ambiguity at the end. I really thought it was a good movie.
So I would just add on in terms of the cast, and like everybody was really good. I was about to say during Shape of Water that was the best overall. Like everybody was amazing. But then we saw this, and so I kind of like there are other things I love about that movie a little bit more, but the cast I thought in this was amazing across the board. So, Colin, what about?
A very very much an emotional roller coaster. Throughout the whole thing, I did have a moment where when Sam Rockwell threw the kid out the window and punched the girl, I almost I was so into it that I almost was like "fuck you," but but I had to stop myself and realize I'm in public. I shouldn't do that. There's all these people around me, but I seriously almost did. I got so angry, and I gotta say that's a good thing for the director and Sam Rockwell's acting that I got that emotional.
He's pretty great. I love him.
Yeah, I mean he has such a up and down with just like being funny and being like he can do drama too. Like he's amazing.
He did, and the sequence when he kind of like started changing when he's reading the letter from.
Woody Harrelson's character
was so good. It was actually beautiful on both sides. Woody Harrelson's delivery of the lines and him thinking about it. Like that was a really well done scene, and there was a lot of symbolism in that where he burns, and out of the ashes, literally, he becomes a new person, like at the Phoenix.
So
Whoa.
that's
Powerful.
that's a little bit of the controversy around this movie, which I didn't know about, was that people are mad that because Sam Rockwell's character is like openly racist, openly terrible for much of the movie, they're mad that they perceive the movie as giving his character a redemption arc, specifically a redemption.
Yeah, we're supposed to hate racists.
But I would argue nobody in this movie ever like really achieves redemption. They're just kind of like getting back to zero. Like they realize their fault.
They're trying to turn into murderers.
Well, yeah. So like, I mean, to your point, there's a lot of ambiguity, but like just they show the gray area, I guess, and show that there are other like Sam Rockwell's mom is like even worse than he is, and you can kind of see where it comes from. But then I don't think he ever like really becomes a good person. He just he makes efforts to get back on the right track.
But he acknowledges himself as being a bad person.
Right.
And I think that's the first
That's
step
half the
to
battle
becoming
right
a good
there.
person.
Yeah.
He acknowledges himself like, you know what? I'm not a good person.
And it's not like they
He acknowledges that he was ignorant.
And even in the end of the movie, it's not like he's, oh, you're a saint now. Like
No.
they're literally driving off in the end of the movie to go kill somebody.
Yeah,
Or
they're
maybe,
deciding
like,
if they're going to or not.
A rapist that he technically on a hunch decides is a rapist, and like then it's like, no, we probably shouldn't do that, you know, like, and that ending is really great. I agree with you, but I don't know. I feel like
People are
his
upset
character
about that he had a
Right.
redemption? Who are upset about it?
I don't know. The internet's mad about everything.
There's no coming back from being a racist, guys.
He voted for Trump.
I will say that the I feel like this was the funniest movie of all of them.
I think so too.
With like Peter Dinklage had some great
Yeah,
moments.
I'm gonna go to little boy's room. I love
Can we tilt the camera down, please?
Mildred having her Bob's Burgers bunny slippers conversation.
Yeah.
Where she's like, we're gonna like her little bunny slippers.
Yeah.
We're gonna crucify those motherfuckers.
yeah.
That was hysterical.
That was so, yeah.
And then the pastor scene, which was all like, this is the whole movie, that it's funny but also really dark, and also like reflects their character, where she basically accuses that pastor that he's guilty by association. Like,
Which-
I mean,
But it shows her. Like, it shows the gray area and how flawed she is. She's not a good person.
Yeah,
either.
no.
She's just as bad as Sam Rockwell.
right, yeah,
You know,
everybody's kind of
prejudiced.
terrible.
Everybody's
Yeah.
prejudiced to begin with. You know.
And that's why Peter Dinklage is such a strong
'Cause he's a
ad,
good
is that
person.
he kind
He's
of
not.
shows that she's not the hero of the
and-
story.
and, like, good for him. And like it was a Rooster line. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn anymore. You know, like fuck you, and good for you.
yeah.
You know, she's you know, you covered for her and all these different things.
And
I
everybody's
like-
coming at this with emotion too. Like all the characters are coming at
Oh,
it with
yeah,
emotion.
that's a
They're
great-
they're
that's a
not
great
thinking
point.
through any of the, except Woody Harrelson. In a lot of ways, he was the only one that was like, okay, this is what's happening, and then everybody else is coming to it with emotion. Even if you agree with them or not, it's emotional.
It's
That was-
entirely you're
that was
right.
a rough scene too.
Yeah.
That scene.
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't
His
seen
suicide,
it,
you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, you ruined it for everybody.
The whole
I know,
podcast is
I know.
spoilers.
No, I just gave you a hard time.
I think the weakest part was, and I told you this, was the Australian wife, Woody Harrelson's wife. I didn't think I was taken out of the movie every time she came on screen.
Yeah. Aussies, right?
She's from New Zealand. I'm sorry.
Kiwis, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
And I also felt like the ex-husband role. Who's that? I forget the
I
actor.
forget his name. He's in everything.
I feel like he added stuff, but it wasn't as much as they thought.
No.
I don't know. Like if they had removed him from the movie, I don't think it would
I
have
thought his
detracted
girlfriend was
anything.
really good. She acted
She was funny.
really
She was in
well.
the Netflix movie.
Like I thought she.
But I
she
agree
did a
with
good
you,
job.
Matt. He could have just been a talking point in the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't really need to see him.
Yeah.
I knew he was a bad guy. Like,
I think
Yeah.
the strongest part from Frances McDormand was and she was good all the way through. I thought she was amazing again. I thought the strongest line was, or the strongest scene was when they did the flashback to the last time she saw her daughter.
Yeah.
And it ends with, well, I hope you get raped on the way too. And then it cuts right back to her, like reflecting on those words and how that literally happened. It just, that was such a gut punch.
It
Yeah.
was.
especially for the son and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Danny also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the police element too was kind of interesting, that they spent so much time showing what's his name from, I think he was in Homeland, the other cop who was like, you shouldn't come in with your badge today. Just drop it off on the off hours.
I love the little note he gives to her saying that I also
How he paid for the billboard.
like just so I get back with you from the grave or something.
Yeah.
Like that. It was just
I
really-
thought it'd be funny.
I thought it'd be funny. He's such a good actor, man. I love Woody Harrelson.
He's one of
gonna
my
be in the
all-time
Han
tops.
Solo.
Do you know he went to
He's going to be the only reason to see it.
he went to school at Hanover, Indiana.
I didn't know that.
He
Yeah.
did. And in Cheers, his character was like
He's from Hanover.
From
From
Hanover,
Hanover? Really?
like, which is hilarious.
And they named him
Harrelson.
after
And that was his big
himself.
break. That was his big break at
do you
Cheers.
know?
It's awesome.
Great show.
Plug in Hanover. Remake Dragonheart.
Remake
Remake.
Hanover.
Remake it.
All right. Last one.
Last one.
Last one.
I think Dracula.
Number 9.
Oh, Well, this is the wrong podcast. Sorry.
My favorite Batman. All right, last movie, The Post.
Go.
Where do you want to start with this one? 'Cause
I'll start.
I have
I'll
a
start
feeling it's
at a
going to go
loss.
lots of places.
No.
And the only reason it was because it was really too accurate. You know, it was such a like it was like it was the same feeling I had with Lincoln.
It was journalistic about journalism.
Well,
It lacked that
Gotcha.
Braveheart
Journalism.
element.
It was the opposite of Churchill. It was like they didn't want to embellish. Like they made it corner, and like to me, like it was like this is interesting, but it's like
Not.
not. It's too adult.
Well, this is kind of the same thing. It's like the story that they were telling is interesting, but I'm more interested in that leaker guy who is the one who
Yeah.
literally was in the battlefield in
Yeah.
Vietnam and brought all the things
was too
back.
broad.
And
It was too broad.
Like I was more interested in that guy's story than what I was watching.
Yeah.
and in this
But,
case, there wasn't a
yeah.
movie by Christopher Nolan about it.
No.
Yeah. Well, me and Ben, like we
said-
went and saw Lincoln together, and it has the same beats. At the beginning, there's a little bit of an action scene,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
it's all talking throughout the movie, and then at the very end, we gotta show that he got killed in a theater. Like
Which nothing to
that
do
happened
with-
in Lincoln.
I wonder
In
what
this one-
happens next.
yeah, in this one, it's a little action with the Vietnam, all talking, and then. Oh, guess what? Did you know Watergate happened around that time? And I was like,
It took me out. Like that. I
okay,
agree-
Steven.
Yeah, it was
We
bad,
get it.
but I was bad. Like that was bad direction, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because like we didn't need that because we know about Watergate. We know Nixon's a terrible person. We know all the different.
Are you
things.
sure? Are you sure we know? I think
I'm
Steven
not a
Spielberg
crook.
needed us to like be blatantly aware that,
That was his
Nixon.
that was his mother direction. No, but like that's why I appreciate Dunkirk. I actually appreciate the other one.
That piece of
Darkest
paper.
Hour?
Darkest Hour is they didn't. Like you wanted to show more Dunkirk in Darkest Hour, but they didn't. They kept it on that one thing, and Lincoln did that to the most part until the end. And this is the same thing. They almost like they went. They did.
They kinda beat
they
you
were
over the head with it
Yeah,
and
and it was
stuff.
like let's just focus on this,
So
and it took me out. Like and it was like suspense music. Like, what are they going to make a sequel? It's like
Watergate 2.
this is kind of in the mold of
Watergate.
like Argo,
took
which
my line.
won Best Picture, which personally I think is
I
stunning
didn't
that
see
that
Argo.
won. But it's kind of telling each beat of this story, and so maybe it's not necessarily suspenseful. They're trying to make it seem suspenseful in different
Well,
ways.
here, one complaint I had about this movie was, God, a lot of people don't know how the Supreme Court works, and they just kind of gloss over that at the end. I don't know how.
So you wanted them to get even more
No,
minute detail.
but like, okay, how? Okay, in a lot of court drama movies, A Few Good Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, A Time
My
to
Cousin
Kill,
Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I want to see that. I want to see the testimonies. I want to see.
the
I want to see
courtroom.
more of that feeling of.
Or like the impassioned plea for
Absolutely.
like why this is so important.
Yeah.
The journal, like
Show
why
us-
these people
show
should.
us more and show us the interaction between
First
judges
Amendment,
and stuff. Give us a little bit of doubt.
That's fair.
even though,
Yeah, yeah.
Show us the
But that was like a
deliberation.
montage at the end.
Yeah.
And it's like I think they spent too much time on the wrong things.
Okay.
To me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Colin.
The only couple of points I would say, like some of the things that I really liked was it Spotlight was the one about the
Yes.
the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Okay, it had a very similar where there's a lot of talking and stuff in that one, but that had a lot of still shots. The thing I really loved about this movie is that Spielberg moved the camera a lot. One of my favorite scenes in it, which is weird that it's my favorite, is that they're in a room and some people are sitting down, some people are standing up, and the camera's moving constantly and doing all these takes, and some people sit down in the scene, some people stand up in the scene, and it makes it that much more dramatic. And that's what I loved about Spielberg is that what I told myself right there was, wow, Spielberg puts a lot of really talented people around him, like to be able to achieve that, like good camera guys, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's very much a Orson Welles kind of thing. He does like in acting they call it blocking. Blocking the the actors around, and like that's a lot of rehearsals, a lot of planning, and then unlike a stage, you know, you have a camera moving around. Like that's a lot of planning. That's a lot of effort.
A lot can go wrong.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Yeah,
one
go
thing
ahead.
that I thought was really funny is that I heard that Steven Spielberg didn't know that Bob Odenkirk and David Cross worked together in the past.
That's
And the
funny.
first time you see them, they're right next to each other.
That's
like
amazing.
like it's part of one of their skits, you know. And I was like, that's great. I love that.
It's funny.
So, a couple good thing. Thing I feel like the thing that made the movie for me was Meryl Streep's character, which I have just as much Meryl Streep fatigue, I think, as anybody, but maybe not as much as anybody. But
I don't know. You really brought the mood down. I'm looking at everybody. And
yeah, I get Ben looks
I'm
like he's
Meryl
going to attack me. You're streeped out.
I'm streeped out.
You're in the streep end.
She's not my Sophie's choice anymore.
Yeah. I feel like her character actually made the movie for me, and I say that because this could have easily been
She did good in it.
just a Steven Spielberg, just 88-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, typical Steven Spielberg movie, and that's what all of our complaints have been about, are the Steven Spielberg-y things. And it comes off, and a lot of this is the story is ultimately relatively forgettable, I guess.
Yeah.
But I felt like the thing that sticks with me is Streep's character, and that she's this. I feel like there are certain feminist elements that are tacked on, but what I really liked about her character is really just two scenes. Is at the very start when she's in the boardroom with all the other men, and she's so like
Yeah.
tense and nervous
She
and can't get a
defers to
word
her
in
brother.
and defers and doesn't make any decisions. And then at the very and it's a big prim and proper boardroom, and Bradley Whitford is talking her down. Then at the very end of the movie,
And then Brad Riddler's wife
In-
comes in and hypnotizes her.
yeah, right. At the very end of the
Joe
movie,
Pesci comes
in
in.
Meryl Streep's house with her in her pajamas, they all come to her because they're about to make this like change the world a revelation about the Vietnam War, and she has to make the decision and make the call, and she does so with like tenacity and and is very articulate about their the reasoning and stuff, and like I don't know, just those two scenes to bookend the movie I felt like were really strong, and everything in between with her relationship with other like Tom Hanks and the McNamara character. I felt like that was the difference that could have been otherwise
good
a
arc.
very bland like
Yeah.
I don't know, like I couldn't decide if in the age of Trump if this movie was hurt or helped by him. Ultimately I feel like it was hurt, that like okay, come on, a movie about like why journalism's important right now. I don't know.
I'm with you, but to me, the more interesting storyline that they glazed over is the Times perspective of it. The New York
New York Times side of it.
Like it feels like the Times are more important than the Post to me, you know, because they're the one who did it, but the Post decided to do it after the Times.
Well, they were the ones that the Post is the one that had the ability to publish and also had more. I think. See, this is how forgettable the movie was.
Yeah.
It's so like granular.
But you know about Watergate, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Watergate, and
I
here's a
remember
Nixon
that.
cutaway
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
on the
dun.
phone. Sorry, go ahead, Colin.
No. I wanted Ben to talk about his favorite scene, which you know,
It was
you
funny.
know what I'm talking about.
As soon as I got done the movie, I call him my favorite scene. He goes, and Colin said the favorite scene I called him about it was, man, that newspaper machine is so cool.
Yeah.
And there's some good shots with it when they're walking out. But like that thing is so cool.
Wow.
It's
how
like
did they
watching
do
that's
Willy
that?
Wonka's
amazing.
Chocolate Factory.
The printing press.
Printing press is amazing. Like,
I want a movie about the
and
printing
it goes
press.
up like that, and it was like, yep, I'm a man. How it's made. Like,
Yay, machines.
yeah.
Well done, Matt.
That was my.
I was
favorite.
watching the clock the whole time.
That was my. Like, this is really cool.
All right, guys. How do
make
you want to do
predictions
this?
now?
Do you want to give your rankings, or do you just want to pick a best picture? I have
think we should
I
just
have
pick.
whole rankings down.
Let's do rankings first, and then we'll say what our
Okay.
best picture is.
All right.
like
Who
top
wants to go
three?
first?
Let's let
Colin go.
Beauty go before anybody.
All right, so I'll go. No, sorry. Go ahead, Colin. Sorry.
I'm last. No. Okay. So mine are a little bit probably different than what you guys picked, but my number one, because I kind of hope that the Academy picks art over some kind of biopic or some kind of political move. I'm going with Shape of Water. That's my number
That's-
one.
That's your number one. That's your personal favorite.
That's my. Oh no, that's who I think will win. Or I'm
Okay.
sorry, is that not how we're doing this?
We're doing personal favorites. first.
Personal
No.
favorite. What is your personal favorite
Okay,
movie?
It's okay.
My personal favorite was Lady Bird. Lady Bird was.
Lady Bird's your favorite.
I the attachment, and I love the beauty of the film and everything about it. So
Mm-hmm.
Lady Bird is my personal favorite.
Okay, let's just do our ones first.
All
Ben,
right.
what's your
I'm
number
sorry,
one?
Guys. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Your favorite
You're
one.
fired after this.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
never be back.
I'll never work in this town
Three
again.
Billboards, my favorite.
Jeez.
Three. Why?
Because I was the most engaged with it. And I smiled the whole time. It was a complete movie. It was funny. It was good. It was good drama. I just really enjoyed it the most, and I would like to watch it again.
Okay. I would say by far this year, my favorite was Shape of Water. But for all the fantasy and whimsy side mixed in with like finding belonging and overcoming adversity, and then all those different dynamics I mentioned earlier, and how it kind of ended on like a hopeful tone, and also that it's just like, to Colin's point, not just that it has this artistic feel to it, but it's just like a movie I've never seen before, and I would love for something that is so well made and so well acted and so detailed and so well thought out to be rewarded. And I enjoyed it the most. I remember leaving feeling like, there's very few things I disliked. So that's my pick.
My experience
Shape of Water.
for that was movie I ran about earlier. Anyways,
Yeah, Blade Runner. Your favorite is Blade Runner.
remake Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I don't have the
remake
graphic
Blade
for
Runner.
that.
Aaron, what was your favorite?
Yeah, Blade Runner was one of my favorites of the year too.
But
It wasn't the
Dunkirk-
top.
Dunkirk's your best one of the list.
Yes, because it's the only one I've seen. I'm gonna take a moment to go on a tiny rant.
Go.
None of these other movies got my interest at all. I'm not gonna watch them just because someone else thinks I should. It's like all of them seem so boring, and it seems like I was vindicated by half of your descriptions.
Vindicated, eh?
Yes.
I am the vindicator.
You were really sticking it to us.
He's the
I just
vindicator.
come on. Half of these
In the
movies are
podcast.
so dull.
All right.
So let's
is a
quickly,
review show.
if you had go 1 through 9 really quickly. Colin, start in terms of your favorite.
What I think will win, and then go on from there.
No, just go like in terms of best. In
Okay,
terms of the best pictures, rank 1 through 9.
Okay,
Lady Bird,
well,
like-
So Lady Bird is 1.
Lady
Lady
Bird was
Bird,
one.
Shape of Water, 3 Billboards, Phantom Thread, Get Out, Dunkirk, Darkest Hour, Call Me by Your Name, The Post.
Interesting. All right.
3 Billboards, number 1. Number 2, Shape of Water. Number 3, Dunkirk. Number 4, Get Out. Number 5, Phantom Thread. Number 6, Lady Bird, even though I love that a lot. Number 7, Darkest Hour. Number 8, Call Me by Your Name, and The Post is last.
Interesting. All right. There's some similarities,
My
but
turn.
a couple
Dunkirk,
outlier.
number 1.
Remake Dunkirk.
Actually, my number 1 was It. Like you guys were talking about the relatable stuff, that one was relatable.
It was
to
very
me.
That's good. It's not relevant to this conversation.
Great. I'm glad I'm on the show.
All right.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
Mine are
Can't take this abuse much longer.
Shape of Water, Dunkirk, 3 Billboards, Call Me by Your Name for me at 4, which is very different from you guys. 5, Phantom Thread, 6, Get Out, 7, Lady Bird, 8, The Post, 9, Darkest Hour. So a couple of major differences. Call Me by Your Name and I think Darkest Hour we had wild differences on.
Absolutely.
Oh, well,
What do you think about
you
that?
guys are wrong. So
It's all right. It's okay.
So, all right. So, our number 1's Shape of Water, 3 Billboards, and Lady Bird are our top 3, and then Dunkirk for Aaron.
It's funny because and Dunkirk was 3 for me.
Those are our best ones. Later in the week, we're gonna post a video on I think Friday where the 4 of us are gonna make our picks for every category. In this case, it won't necessarily be about what our favorite is. It'll be who we think is gonna win each
Our
category.
answers might be drastically
As
different.
part of the game, we're gonna have to come up with what the prize is for who the winner is, because on Sunday we're gonna watch the Oscars and see who got the most right. So
Absolutely.
that's the plan. So look out for Friday for all four of us. Even Colin, we're gonna have Colin come back on
Yes.
because even though he was wrong about everything, we're gonna have him back.
But his
he's so
station's
handsome.
so beautiful.
Yeah, we need to have this a fourth.
Army
face
Hammer,
between-
watch out! There's a new screwdriver. in the shed.
Call me
Keep
by your name.
There's a new socket wrench in the drawer.
yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Wait.
Get at it.
Oh,
What?
so-
What?
wait, we didn't do our predictions. That was our list, right?
He said
We're
we
gonna
were
do
going to
predictions for
later.
Friday.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
All right.
So tune in on Friday. Look for that.
Okay.
and
So
then-
we're not doing the prediction for Best Picture in this podcast.
Thanks
No.
for having me, guys.
Yep. All right. See you, everybody.
Way to be a listener.